The transport ship descended through layers of thick red clouds. Commander Lucas Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the planet Kefsar grow larger on the viewscreen. The crimson atmosphere crackled with electrical storms that made the ship's instruments jump and fail. He had seen dangerous worlds before, but nothing prepared him for what the sensors showed. The planet was a nightmare. The Galactic Council had called this a Class 15 Deathworld. That was their polite way of saying it would kill you in 1,000 different ways. Extreme heat, acid rain, creatures the size of buildings, electromagnetic radiation that destroyed most technology. The Council had given this suicide mission to humans because they considered humans expendable. 3 species had refused the assignment already. Now it fell to Commander Lucas Hayes and his small team. Lieutenant Amanda Cross sat at the navigation station. She was tall and sharp-eyed, with dark hair pulled back tight. Her fingers moved across the controls as more instruments failed. Kefsar's electromagnetic storms were stronger than the Council's reports had suggested. Amanda did not speak, but Lucas could see the tension in her jaw. She knew what this meant. The backup systems were failing too. Dr. Kevin Patterson stood behind them, studying data on a handheld device. Kevin was older than Lucas, with gray streaking his beard. He was a xenobiologist who had studied 100 different worlds. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, Lucas thought. From excitement. Kevin loved discovering new things, even when those things wanted to kill him. The ship shook hard. An alarm screamed through the corridors. 2 more engine sections offline, Amanda reported. Her voice was calm, but her hands moved faster. We can still land, Commander, but not far from the designated zone. Lucas nodded. Do it. Get us down in one piece. The descent became a dance between technology and survival. The ship fought the planet's atmosphere like a boxer fighting an opponent who never tired. Sparks flew from damaged panels. The lights flickered. Through the viewscreen, Lucas could see the surface now. Crystal formations the size of mountains jutted from the ground. Valleys between them filled with thick fog that glowed an ugly purple. In the distance, something massive moved through that fog. Something big enough that only its shoulders were visible. The landing gear came down with a grinding noise. The ship touched ground, bounced once, and settled. For a moment, there was silence. Then cheers came from the crew quarters. They had made it. Lucas let out a breath. He did not know he was holding the team suited up inside the pressurized bay. Their suits were the most advanced the human colonies possessed. Thick polymer material, life support systems, temperature regulation, radiation shielding. It still felt like wearing paper against what waited outside. Lucas sealed his helmet and heard the quiet hiss of the air recycler. Around him, 9 other members of his team did the same. Amanda, Kevin, 5 engineers, 2 soldiers, 1 communications officer. The airlock opened. The ramp descended. The air outside was thick and heavy, colored orange by dust. The temperature read 45 degrees Celsius. By noon, it might reach 60. The acid rain in the weather forecast was supposed to come in 6 hours. They had little time. The crystalline plateau stretched out before them. The formations were translucent, catching the light of Kefsar's distant sun and turning its strange colors. Between the crystals, Lucas could see what looked like ruins. Ancient structures, made from materials he did not recognize. They were half buried under dust and crystal growth, suggesting they had been here for a very long time. Kevin moved forward first, his eyes wide. Do you see this? He whispered. These structures, they are not natural. Someone built them. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine despite the heat. The Galactic Council had said Kefsar was dead. No civilizations. No intelligent life. just a hostile rock in space. But those ruins told a different story. A sound cut through the air, low and rumbling. Lucas turned toward it. In the purple fog to their left, something was moving. Something very large. Shape shifted in the mist. For a moment, Lucas caught sight of it. A head the size of a transport shuttle. Teeth like metal spikes. Eyes that glowed with an orange light. Then it was gone, melting back into the fog. What was that? One of the soldiers whispered. That, Kevin said slowly, was our welcome committee. Lucas made a decision. We need to set up base camp, now, close to those ruins. If this planet was inhabited once, those structures might provide shelter and answers. Move people. Double time. The team worked fast. They set up the base camp on a flat section of the plateau, near the largest of the ancient ruins. The structures were made from something smooth and gray, covered in dust and cracks. When Amanda touched one, her gloved hand came away with ash. Whatever had happened here, it had happened a long time ago. As the sun began to set, painting the sky shades of orange and red, Lucas stood watching the landscape. The purple fog crept closer. Sounds echoed from within it. Calls and movements from things he could not see. The ruins loomed above them, full of shadows and mysteries. Somewhere in the distant past, something had lived here. Something had built. Something had created. And then something had destroyed it all. Kevin came to stand beside him, holding a small device. A scanner. I am getting energy signatures from the ruins, Kevin said quietly. Faint but present. Something down there is still active. After all these years, something is still working. Lucas looked at the ancient structures, then at his team, then at the hostile world stretching out around them. The Galactic Council had sent them here to fail, to prove that humans were weak, that they belonged at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy, taking orders, doing the dangerous work, dying for more advanced species. But Lucas was not ready to die. Not here. Not like this. Then we explore those ruins, Lucas said. Tomorrow, after we seal the base and run full scans. If there is something alive down there, we need to know what it is. As night fell on Kefsar, the sounds from the planet grew louder. Creatures called to each other in the darkness. Wind howled through the crystal formations. But inside the base camp, Lucas and his team prepared their equipment and tried to sleep. They had survived the descent. They had set up camp. And they had discovered something that changed everything they knew about this dead world. The real exploration was about to begin. The Galactic Council's central station orbited the ancient world of Torvin Prime. It was a structure of impossible size, a city floating in space. The Council had built it 10,000 years ago and expanded it continuously since. Hundreds of species worked within it. Millions of individuals. The station was the center of power for the known galaxy. Lucas Hayes and his team arrived as prisoners. Not officially. The Council had been polite. They had ordered the transport ship to dock at a specific port. They had provided comfortable quarters. But everyone knew it was confinement. The data Lucas carried was revolutionary. Dangerous. The Council needed to contain it. The message had already spread before Lucas reached the station. That was not Lucas's doing. It was Kevin's. The old scientist had transmitted preliminary findings to multiple research institutions across the galaxy before the Council could impose communications blackout. Universities, scientific organizations, independent research centers. Suddenly, everyone knew that a Class 15 Deathworld had been successfully explored. That humans had discovered ancient technology of impossible sophistication. That a dead civilization had left behind warnings about an approaching cosmic threat. The Council was in chaos. Lucas stood in the observation chamber, looking down at Torvin Prime. The world below was beautiful. Ancient architecture mixed with modern structures. Gardens that had been carefully maintained for millennia. Nothing like the harsh reality of Kefsar. This was a world built for comfort, for rest, for the powerful Don. Amanda came to stand beside him. She was exhausted. They all were. The journey from Kefsar had been long. The debriefings with various council officials had been longer. They are trying to silence us, Amanda said simply. Yes, Lucas agreed. Are they going to succeed? Lucas turned to face her. No, because too many people know the truth now. The data is spreading. Scientists are examining it. Other species are asking questions. The council can confine us, but they cannot confine the knowledge. Kevin entered the observation chamber, his face grave. He had been in meetings with the council's scientific committee all morning. The old xenobiologist looked like he had aged 10 years. They want me to retract the findings, Kevin said without preamble. They offer me resources, a laboratory, research funding, anything I want, in exchange for saying the ancient records are unclear, possibly corrupted, possibly not accurate. Will you do it? Amanda asked. Kevin's laugh was bitter. I spent my entire life studying the truth. Why would I stop now? But the truth was more complex than that. The council was fracturing. That was becoming clear. The younger scientists, those from species that had less political power, were excited by the discoveries. They wanted access to the data. They demanded the right to study the ancient technology. They questioned why the council would suppress information about an approaching threat. But the older powers on the council, the species that had held dominance for millennia, were different. They saw the discovery not as an opportunity, but as a threat. If humanity could survive a Class 15 Deathworld and find technology beyond anything the council possessed, then humanity could not be kept as a subordinate species anymore. The entire power structure would shift. A council member appeared in the viewing chamber. She was a Threx, a species known for their long lifespans and political influence. Her name was Coordinator Sheth. She was ancient, even by Threx standards. She had held power for over 500 years. Commander Hayes, she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. The council has reached a decision regarding your findings. Lucas waited. Your data will be classified, Sheth continued, restricted from general distribution. Certain select scientists will have access, but the broader population will not be informed of the threat you claim to have discovered. We cannot have panic spreading through the galaxy based on the word of a single human expedition. Then you will not act on the threat? Lucas asked. We will investigate further, Sheth said carefully, in time. But we cannot disrupt the current stability of the galactic order based on speculation. Lucas felt anger rising in him, but he kept his voice level. It is not speculation. It is data from a civilization hundreds of thousands of years old. It is observations and calculations. It is warnings they left specifically for whoever came after them. Sheth turned to leave, then paused. You understand that what you have found threatens the balance of power. The Threx have guided the galaxy for millennia. We have maintained order. We have prevented wars. We have ensured the survival of countless species. This discovery challenges that. It suggests that humans, a species we have only recently tolerated as sapient, might possess unique abilities that could reshape our future. That is not something we are ready to accept. She walked out before Lucas could respond, but she had made a mistake. What she said in that room spread through the station within hours. Kevin had activated a hidden recording device. The words of Coordinator Sheth, explaining that she was suppressing evidence of a cosmic threat to maintain power, became public knowledge. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Scientists demanded access to the data. Students protested at government buildings. Representatives from younger species called for emergency sessions of the council. News organizations, that had never questioned authority began investigating. The discovery became a symbol of something larger, a question about whether the old powers deserved to remain in control. Lucas found himself at the center of a storm. He was invited to speak before scientific committees. Reporters wanted interviews. Other species leaders wanted to meet with him personally. The council had tried to suppress the truth, but they had already failed. 3 days after Chef's declaration, something remarkable happened. A representative appeared at Lucas's quarters. She was not council security. She was older than Chef, her species bearing the marks of ancient lineage. She introduced herself as the Architect's Herald. "I have been waiting for someone to find our libraries," she said simply. "Waiting for someone to decode our warnings. The Threks have known about the Devourer for thousands of years. They received information from our records long ago, but they kept it secret. They believed that knowing about an inevitable threat would destabilize their power. Then you are." Lucas could not finish the thought. "Ancient beyond your measurement," the Herald confirmed. "The architects did not disappear entirely. We retreated from the galactic stage. We have been watching, waiting, and we have been choosing who to trust with our knowledge. We chose you, not because you were the most advanced, but because you faced the Deathworld and did not give up. Because you used knowledge you had to combine with knowledge you found. Because you chose to share truth even when it threatened those in power." The Herald handed Lucas something. A device, small and elegant, made from materials that seemed to shift between solid and light. "This contains everything," she said. "All our knowledge. All our technology designs. Everything we learned in our fight against the Devourer. Give it to your species. Trust them with it. We did not survive the last cosmic catastrophe, but perhaps you will. Perhaps humans possess something we lacked. Something that will make the difference." She turned to leave. "Wait," Lucas said. "Why reveal yourself now? Why not just let things continue?" The Herald paused at the door. "Because the Threks have tried to maintain power by controlling knowledge. They have failed. The galaxy is watching humans prove that adaptability and courage matter more than ancient authority. For the first time in millennia, things are changing, and we believe that change might save us all." The next morning, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Lucas attended not as a prisoner, but as a representative. Representatives from younger species had insisted on it. The chamber was full. Hundreds of individuals from dozens of different races, all waiting to hear what Lucas had to say. He stood before them and spoke simply. He described Kethzer. He described what they had found. He described the threat. He described the architect's knowledge. And he made a single request. Give humanity the responsibility of exploring the remaining Deathworlds. Give us the chance to find all the ancient libraries. Let us gather all the knowledge. Not because we are superior, but because we have already proven we can survive the unsurvivable. We can carry this knowledge for the galaxy. We can work towards solutions that will protect all of us." The vote was close. The old powers on the council opposed it, but younger species supported it overwhelmingly. When the final count was made, humanity had been granted official status as an independent exploration force, equal standing with any other species in the council. The Threks and their allies had been overruled. As Lucas left the chamber, he knew the galaxy would never be the same. The old hierarchy was crumbling. A new age was beginning. Humanity had not arrived at it through conquest or technology. They had arrived through something simpler, through refusing to give up, through proving that courage and adaptability mattered more than ancient authority. Outside the observation port of the station, the stars shone. Somewhere out there, the Devourer moved slowly through space. But now the galaxy was watching. Now they were prepared. Now they had hope. And hope, Lucas realized, was something humans had always understood better than anyone else. 3 weeks on Kethzer had changed everything. Lucas thought he knew about human limits. The first week had been about survival. Acid rain fell in sheets that burned through the outer layers of their suits. The temperature swings were brutal. One moment the air felt like an oven. The next, wind from the upper atmosphere dropped it below freezing. The creatures in the purple fog tested their defenses constantly. Strange things with too many legs. Flying things with wings like metal blades. Predators that hunted in packs. Howling at night in sounds that made the team's skin crawl. But humans adapted. That was the thing the Galactic Council never understood. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not have natural weapons or armor or poison or the ability to breathe fire. What humans had was flexibility. They could solve problems. They could improvise. They could keep moving forward even when everything told them to stop. Kevin had realized this before anyone else. He stood in the main lab of the base, looking at data streaming across multiple screens. His face was unshaved and dark with exhaustion, but his eyes were bright. Amanda stood beside him, her arms crossed. Both of them were staring at charts that showed something remarkable. "Look at this," Kevin said, pointing at a graph showing metabolic rates. "Our bodies are adapting to the radiation. Not quickly, but measurably. Within weeks, humans can adjust to conditions that would kill most species in hours." The Keltians lasted 3 days in the outer zones before their biology started breaking down. The Marthans refused to leave the sealed shelter at all. "But we keep going." Amanda nodded slowly. "We also fixed the water recyclers using parts from the crash probe." The Marthans said it could not be done. Their engineers said the damage was too severe. But we did it anyway. We took what we had and made it work. This was the pattern. In the first week, their equipment failed constantly. The planet destroyed it. But instead of waiting for replacement parts, Lucas's team fixed things. They combined technology in ways that were never intended. They rewired systems. They rebuilt. They improvised solutions that should not have worked but did. The Galactic Council had sent them a message 3 days ago. It came through the communication relay, faint and broken, but the message was clear. The Council was concerned. Not concerned about their safety, concerned about their success. 2 backup teams made up of elite species from across the galaxy had been sent to observe the mission. Both teams had requested additional supplies and support within a day of arriving in the outer zones. One team reported that the Deathworld was worse than predicted. The other team said their equipment was failing and they could not continue, but Lucas's small human team kept working. They had explored deeper into the ruins. Amanda's geological knowledge had helped them understand the crystal formations. They found they could use the crystals as barriers against radiation. They discovered ways to navigate the storms by reading electromagnetic patterns in the sky. They learned which creatures were dangerous and which would leave them alone if they showed no threat. And then Kevin made the major discovery. Deep in the largest ruin, buried beneath thousands of years of dust and crystal growth, they found something intact. A chamber. Inside the chamber was a machine. Not like any technology the galaxy currently used. The materials were different. The design was different. The principles behind it were hard to understand. But it was clearly a device built for a purpose. And it was still functioning. Power still flowed through systems that should have been dead for centuries. Kevin had been studying it for 2 days straight. He barely slept. He barely ate. Lucas had to force him to take breaks, but Kevin kept going back to the machine. His excitement was contagious. "This is not comparable to anything in our databases," Kevin kept saying. "This is not comparable to any technology any species currently possesses. The precision, the complexity, the materials. Whoever built this was operating at a level we have not reached." And that was hundreds of thousands of years ago. The team faced one critical moment during the third week. The shelter's main system started to fail. Not from damage. From wear. The seals on the doors were breaking down from the constant acid rain. The air filtration system was overloaded. If they did not fix it, the base would be compromised within hours. Lucas gathered the team. The engineers said it could not be repaired. The systems were too damaged. They would need replacement parts from the transport ship, which meant calling the council for help, which meant admitting they needed rescue. But Lucas asked a simple question. What if we do not fix it the way it was designed? That question changed everything. They took parts from non-essential systems. They rewired the main generator. They used principles from the ancient machine Kevin had been studying, combining old technology concepts with new materials. It took 10 hours of constant work. Every person on the team contributed something. The engineers built. The soldiers provided security while others worked. Kevin advised on the technical side. Amanda found a way to reinforce the outer seals using crystal formations. It worked. The system came online. Air flowed through clean filters. The shelter held. They had done something no other team thought was possible. That night, as Lucas walked through the base, he heard something that made him stop. Laughter. Real laughter. His team was celebrating. Not because they had fixed a system, because they had proven something to themselves. They were capable of things they had never imagined. They could face this world. They could survive it. They could thrive. Kevin found Lucas standing alone on the observation platform. The old scientist walked up beside him, looking out at the hostile landscape of Kethsa. In the distance, lightning split the purple sky. Wind howled through the crystal formations. Everything on this planet wanted to kill them. The backup teams are all requesting extraction, Kevin said quietly. Their reports came through this morning. They say the environment is too hostile. The creatures are too dangerous. They cannot continue the mission. Lucas was quiet for a moment. How many species have refused to work together? 2 so far. Maybe more will follow. We should expect it, Lucas said. Superior species do not admit they failed at something a human can do. Kevin smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who understood something fundamental about the universe. The Council sent us here to die, to fail, to prove that humanity was nothing. Instead, we are proving something else entirely. Lucas looked at the ancient ruins stretching across the plateau. Thousands of years old, built by a civilization that had reached heights the current galaxy had not approached. Destroyed by forces beyond their control, but leaving behind knowledge, technology, warnings. Tomorrow we go deeper, Lucas said, into the largest structure. If there is technology down there still functioning, there might be records, data, information about what happened here and why. Kevin nodded. And if we find it? Then, Lucas said, we learn what the Galactic Council does not want us to know. They stood together as night fell on Kethsa, watching the planet's 2 moons rise over the horizon. Somewhere in the ruins below their feet, ancient machines hummed with power. Somewhere in the purple fog, predators hunted. Somewhere in the distant stars, the Galactic Council waited for news of humanity's failure. They were about to be very disappointed. The database was unlike anything Kevin had ever encountered. It was not stored on screens or in physical form. It was etched into the very walls of the deepest chamber, using technology that responded to touch and thought. Ancient and alive. Waiting to share its secrets with anyone who could understand it. It took Kevin 2 weeks to decode the first fragments. The system worked through patterns, mathematical sequences that led to more complex information. Ancient language giving way to concepts that transcended language. He worked alongside Amanda, who had a gift for seeing patterns in chaos. Together, they slowly pulled information from a machine that had been waiting for 100,000 years to speak. Lucas gathered the team in the main chamber when Kevin was ready to present his findings. The walls here were covered in those strange markings. The air felt heavy with history. Dust hung in the light filtering down from cracks in the ceiling far above. This was a tomb. A message left behind by a dead civilization. Kevin stood before them, holding a device that displayed translated information. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, from the weight of what he was about to reveal. This planet was not always a death world, Kevin began. Once it was habitable. More than habitable. It was a center of a great civilization. Advanced technology. Multiple cities. Millions of inhabitants. They called themselves the architects. They reached a level of understanding that is difficult for us to comprehend. They could reshape matter. They could store information in ways we are only beginning to understand. They could build things that lasted for hundreds of thousands of years and still function. He paused, letting that sink in. But the planet changed. Geological forces we cannot fully understand altered Kethser's environment. The atmosphere became toxic. The radiation levels increased. Volcanic activity became extreme. Over time, most of the architects died. They tried to save their civilization, but the planet was transforming too quickly. They realized they could not survive the change. So they made a choice. Kevin advanced to the next section of translated data. Amanda's face was pale. The soldiers listened intently. Everyone understood they were hearing about the end of a world. They built this chamber as a repository, Kevin continued. A place to preserve knowledge. They recorded everything. Scientific discoveries. Historical records. Warnings. They created machines that would continue functioning, waiting for someone to find them. Someone to learn from them. They left instructions on how to decode their knowledge. They left star charts. They left something else. Something important. Kevin pulled up a series of complex diagrams. Star systems. But not just star systems. The diagram showed something moving through space. A wave, an anomaly, a force that consumed matter and energy. The diagram showed it had already destroyed one star system completely, two others partially, and the calculations showed a trajectory, a direction. The architects detected this phenomenon hundreds of thousands of years ago, Kevin said. They called it the Devourer. It moves through space slowly by our standards. Very slowly. But it is persistent. It destroys everything in its path. Stars, planets, civilizations. The architects tried to find a way to stop it, but they failed. When they realized their own extinction was coming from an environmental collapse caused by something else entirely, they decided to leave their knowledge behind. For whoever might come after. For whoever might face the same threat. The chamber was completely silent. The Devourer is coming, Kevin said flatly. Not tomorrow. Not for hundreds of years, perhaps. But it is coming, and it will destroy the galaxy as we know it. Amanda stood up. How do you know this is true? How do you know these records are not corrupted or mistaken? Because the architects left verification methods, Kevin said. They left references. The star charts they recorded match what we know about ancient astronomical events. Everything they documented about Kethser's atmospheric composition matches what we are seeing now. Their scientific principles are sound. Their observations are accurate. This is not speculation or myth. This is a 100,000-year-old warning about a threat that is real. Lucas processed this slowly. And they chose to leave this knowledge here? On this specific world? They left it everywhere, Kevin corrected. This is just one library. Multiple locations across space. The architects spread their knowledge far and wide, hoping that someone someday would find it and be prepared. They left detailed information about their own extinction, how they failed to find a solution, what approaches did not work, and they left something else. He displayed a new set of diagrams. These showed technology, designs for machines, schematics for devices that looked like nothing the current galaxy possessed. These are the tools they created to fight the Devourer. None of them worked completely, but some delayed its approach. Some reduced its rate of consumption. The architects believed that a civilization with enough time and cooperation could develop ways to stop it completely. But they did not have that time. They were already facing extinction. Lucas felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The Galactic Council had sent humans to Kefsar as an afterthought, an expendable assignment. They had expected failure and death. Instead, they have found the key to the galaxy's future. "There is something else," Kevin said. His voice was quiet now, serious. Something the architects emphasized. They left records about what kind of species would be most likely to survive contact with knowledge of the Devourer. What kind of civilization would have the psychological and emotional strength to face extinction and keep fighting? He looked directly at Lucas. They called it the adaptable spirit, the ability to face impossible odds and keep moving forward, the ability to work together even with limited resources, the ability to find solutions no one has tried before because you refuse to accept defeat, the ability to show courage not from strength, but from choice. Kevin's eyes swept across the entire team. That description matches humans perfectly. That was when the alarm screamed through the base. The main life support system had failed. Not gradually, completely. The backup systems were not responding. In minutes, the oxygen would be gone. Lucas did not hesitate. He was already moving, shouting orders. Two engineers raced toward the main generator room. But Lucas knew they would not make it in time. The distance was too far. The system was too damaged. They needed a solution now. It was Amanda who spoke first. "The ancient machine. Kevin, the one you have been studying. You said it uses principles we do not fully understand but recognized as sound signs. Could we reverse its power flow? Channel energy from it into our systems?" Kevin's face went blank for a moment as he processed the idea. It was insane. The power signatures alone could overload everything. But then his expression changed. Understanding dawned. If we phase the energy input, if we calibrate it correctly, yes, it might work. They moved like a single organism. Kevin guided them to the ancient machine. Amanda began hooking up portable power conduits. The two engineers who were still in the base worked to open the central panel. Lucas stood watch, monitoring the oxygen levels. 40%, 35%, 30%. Kevin's hands moved across the ancient interface. Screens lit up that had not been active in 100,000 years. Power flowed. Energy transferred. The portable systems began charging. 20% oxygen. They connected the main line. 15%. The system activated. Power surged through the base. Lights blazed. Alarms stopped screaming. The life support system roared back to life. Air flowed fresh and pure through every corridor. The oxygen counter began climbing. 50%. 70%. 95%. The team stopped moving, breathing, thanking themselves that they were alive. Lucas looked at Kevin. "The ancient technology saved us." Kevin nodded slowly. "Or we saved ourselves. We combined what we knew with what they left behind." That is what the architects understood. Knowledge is powerful, but knowledge combined with the will to survive, with the courage to try things no one has tried before, with the unity of a team working together against impossible odds. That is unstoppable. Lucas made a decision in that moment. The Galactic Council had sent them here expecting failure. They would not fail. They would take what they had learned, and they would face the Council with the truth. The galaxy was in danger. Humanity had found the answer, and the old hierarchy the Council had constructed was about to collapse. "We sent a message to the transport ship," Lucas said. "We prepare all the data, all the records, everything the architects left behind. Tomorrow we head back, and we tell the Council exactly what we found." Outside, the purple fog of Kethser swirled around the ancient ruins. The Deathworld that had killed countless species had revealed its secrets to humans. The ones the Council thought were expendable. The ones no one believed in. They were about to change the galaxy forever. 3 years had passed since Lucas Hayes stood before the Galactic Council and changed the trajectory of human history. The transformation had been rapid and profound. Humanity had not just been granted equal standing. They had been given responsibility. The newly formed Human Exploration and Research Division controlled 12 dedicated ships and a crew of over 500 individuals from all species. Their mission was clear: find every Deathworld the architects had cataloged, recover every library, gather every piece of knowledge that might help the galaxy survive the coming threat. Lucas commanded the flagship now. The ship was state-of-the-art, equipped with technology both modern and ancient. The crew included scientists, engineers, soldiers, and diplomats. They worked together in ways that would have been unthinkable just years before. Amanda Cross stood beside him on the observation deck. She had been promoted to Chief of Ground Operations. Her expertise in navigating hostile environments was now legendary. In the past 3 years, she had led teams to 7 Deathworlds. Each one had contained pieces of the ancient knowledge. Each one had revealed something new about the threat they faced. "The next expedition is ready," Amanda said. She was looking at a star chart displayed on the massive viewscreen. Kethma Prime, Class 16 Deathworld. Atmosphere composed of hydrogen and methane. Temperature fluctuations of over 100 degrees. The readings suggest there is an ancient facility there, possibly one of the largest libraries the architects built. Lucas nodded. "When do we leave?" 3 days. The crew is prepared. We have new protective suits designed specifically for methane atmospheres. The analysis of the Kethser technology has given us better equipment. We will be able to go deeper, stay longer, gather more. Kevin Patterson appeared on the deck as well. The old xenobiologist moved more slowly now, his age catching up with him. But his mind was sharper than ever. He had become the leading authority on ancient architect technology. His work had been crucial in developing new tools for exploration. "I have been reviewing the star charts," Kevin said. He held a data device that showed projections. "The Devourer has accelerated, or our calculations were off initially. Either way, we have less time than we thought. Perhaps 200 years instead of 500. 200 years. To a human, that sounded like forever. To the longer-lived species, it was nothing. The Threks lived for centuries. The architect's herald species lived for millennia. 200 years was a blink of existence. Then we accelerate the exploration schedule," Lucas said. "We increase crew rotations. We add more teams. We send multiple expeditions simultaneously. If we have 200 years to prepare, we cannot waste time." The other major change had been the shift in the Galactic Council itself. Sheth and the Old Guard had not disappeared, but their power had been dramatically reduced. A new council had been formed, with representatives from many more species. Humans held 5 seats now. 5 seats that humans had earned through discovery and capability, not through ancient authority. But the real power had shifted away from political control toward scientific cooperation. Species that had been isolated from each other for millennia were now working together. The Threx shared knowledge they had suppressed for thousands of years. The Architect's Herald had revealed themselves fully and begun teaching directly. New alliances formed. New understanding developed. The only real opposition came from a faction of the old powers. They still believed the galaxy should be controlled by the ancient species. They still thought that maintaining the old order was more important than preparing for the threat. They had even attempted to sabotage one of the human expeditions. But they had failed. Their influence continued to wane. That evening, Lucas stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched out before him. Somewhere among those stars, Kethzer orbited its sun, the Deathworld that had started everything. He thought about that first descent, about the atmosphere crackling with electricity, about Amanda's quick thinking on the navigation station, about Kevin's realization that humans could adapt to the unsurvivable. Message arrived through the communication system. It came from Earth, from the Human Council representative there. The message was simple but important. The United Earth Government had officially committed to a 100-year research program focused on understanding the ancient technology. Thousands of young humans were dedicating their lives to the mission. Schools were opening across the planet to teach the architect languages and principles. Humanity was changing. The vision of what they could achieve was expanding. Amanda joined him as the message ended. "Are you thinking about how far we have come?" she asked. "I am thinking about how far we need to go," Lucas said. "The Galactic Council sent us to Kethzer because they thought we were expendable. They believed we would die, and they could use our deaths as justification for keeping humanity in a subordinate position. Instead, we found knowledge that changes everything. Because we refused to accept their judgment of us," Amanda said. "We faced a world that was supposed to be impossible to survive, and we survived. We did not wait for permission. We did not ask for help when others would have. We adapted. We solved problems. We kept moving forward." Lucas turned to face her. That is what the architects meant. That is what they were looking for. Not the strongest or the fastest or the most technologically advanced. They were looking for species with the courage to keep trying when everything says you should stop. They were looking for adaptability, for ingenuity, for the will to refuse defeat. A new message came through. This one was from Kevin, still in his laboratory. He was excited. He had found something new in the Kethzer records. A reference to a technology that could potentially deflect the Devourer's path. Not destroy it, but redirect it. Push it away from the galactic core where most inhabited worlds were located. It would require cooperation from every major species. It would require resources that had never been coordinated before. But it was possible. Lucas smiled. 3 years ago, the idea would have been impossible. The council would have said no. The old powers would have blocked it. But now? Now they were preparing expeditions to 7 new Deathworlds. Now they were actively working with the Architect's Herald. Now they had hope. The final piece of the message came through as a transmission from deep space. One of the automated probes that had been sent to the edge of known space had picked something up. A response. An ancient transmission that had finally been received and decoded. It was from the architects, from their final archive. A message that had been waiting for someone to be ready to receive it. The message was in simple terms, designed to be understood by any species intelligent enough to receive it. Survivors of our knowledge. We did not survive our extinction, but we believe in the future. We believe that somewhere, someone will find our records. Someone will have the courage to face the truth. Someone will have the adaptability to use that truth to save themselves. We left everything we learned. We left tools we created. We left warnings about the danger. Now it is your turn. Face the coming darkness with unity. Face it with courage. Face it with the belief that you can survive. Those who come after you, whoever they might be, will thank you for trying. They will thank you for refusing to give up. They will thank you for being brave enough to change. This is the gift we leave. This is the hope we carry into your future. Lucas read the message twice. Then he looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, humanity's ships were exploring new worlds. Somewhere in laboratories across the galaxy, scientists from 100 different species were working together. Somewhere, children were learning about the ancient knowledge, preparing for a future that would be unlike anything anyone had ever imagined. The Galactic Council had sent humans to a Class 15 Deathworld, expecting them to fail. Instead, humans had discovered the truth that would save the galaxy. Not because they were superior, but because they refused to accept defeat. Because they adapted when others refused to change. Because they had the courage to face the impossible and keep moving forward. Lucas thought about everyone who had doubted humanity. Everyone who had kept them in servitude. Everyone who had said they were not good enough. All of that was changing. Not through conquest or violence, but through proving that what humans had always possessed was exactly what the galaxy needed to survive. The ship began its final preparations for departure. Crew members gathered in the docking bays. Equipment was loaded. Systems were checked. In 3 days, they would depart for Kethma Prime. There would be dangers. There would be challenges. But there would also be discovery. There would be knowledge. There would be progress. As Lucas walked through the corridors of his ship, people recognized him. Some saluted. Some thanked him. Some simply nodded in acknowledgement. He was not a hero in the traditional sense. He had not defeated anyone or conquered anything. He had simply done what humans had always done best. He had faced the impossible and refused to stop. That night, Lucas sent a message to the Human Council. A single sentence. The real work begins now. And across the galaxy, humans and their allies prepared for what was to come. They prepared for expeditions to dangerous worlds. They prepared for research into ancient technology. They prepared for a future where cooperation mattered more.